The first thing you notice is how ordinary it all seemed in the beginning. Just another slow morning at Miller's Diner, the coffee steam curling into the light, the bell above the door chiming like it always does. And then this little girl appears, alone, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit like it's the only safe thing she owns. And she walks straight to Officer Eric's booth and says, in this impossibly calm, too-old voice, "Can you please arrest my daddy?" You know what I mean. Those moments when the air just drops out of the room and everyone's frozen? That was one of them. Maggie, the waitress, went still mid-step. The old farmer stopped chewing. Even the grill and back seemed to hush. And Eric, trained for 100 kinds of emergencies, suddenly found himself staring into the kind of emergency no manual covers. A child asking for help in the plainest words she knows. Lily, 6 years old, hair slipping from its careful part, didn't shout, didn't cry, just held his eyes like she'd rehearsed this. Like she'd already decided he might be the last person she could trust. When he asked why, she said, "I don't know what else to do." And you could feel it in your bones that this wasn't about a tantrum or a misunderstanding. This was survival. Within minutes, Eric had called Emily from Child Services, who slid into the booth across from Lily and got that same question, "Are you going to arrest my daddy?" And the same careful, practiced phrases about rules and learning to be strong. And then the father arrived, Jake Anderson, clean-cut, composed, carrying an air of calm authority that would have fooled anyone who hadn't seen the way Lily's body went rigid the second he walked in. He talked about trauma responses, about therapy, about how children process grief, every word reasonable, every explanation airtight, except for the fact that his daughter's eyes were silently screaming. That was the first thread Emily pulled on. The more she learned, the more it unraveled. Neighbors describing him as devoted, church leaders praising his parenting, paperwork on homeschooling filed perfectly in order, but always with the same pattern. Lily never played with other kids, never spoke out of turn, never showed the messy, noisy joy of being 6. In the grocery store, she called him sir and thanked him for choosing plain cereal. At home visits, she demonstrated her lessons like a soldier on inspection, asking permission for every move. And then there was the basement closet, locked, windowless, the place Lily called her quiet place, where she went to think until her fears stopped. Sometimes she whispered. She forgot how to breathe in there. Jake didn't see this as punishment. To him, it was the gift his own father had given him: control, structure, strength through isolation. He spoke of it with pride, blind to the damage it had done to him and was now doing to Lily. Breaking through that wall meant not just proving harm, but unpicking a lifetime of belief. Emily and Dr. Rodriguez got the evidence in the gentlest way, through crayons and paper, through questions about special places, through Lily's own drawings of dark boxes and a little figure with tight chest and fast-beating heart. The court order came. The day arrived, and on Jake's front step, with neighbors watching, Lily finally said it aloud. Sometimes she was scared of her daddy, scared in the quiet place, scared in a way that never stopped. Jake crumpled under that truth. He let her go, not without heartbreak, but with a dawning awareness that love and fear can't live in the same room. Lily went to Claire's warm apartment, where at first she asked permission for everything, but slowly learned it was okay to laugh too loud, to pick her own dress, to say she didn't like the dark. Jake began his own reckoning in therapy, facing memories he'd never allowed himself to touch, realizing that what he'd thought was strength was just fear dressed in discipline. Months passed. Lily learned to sort the world into okay and not okay, and Jake learned that love meant safety, not control. The first supervised visit was awkward and raw. Lily asked him not to use the quiet box anymore, and he promised, with tears, never again. By the 6-month mark, in the same court system that had taken her away, they were sitting side by side with therapists and social workers recommending reunification. Lily ran to him that day, handing over a drawing of them outside a bright house with big windows, no basement, and freedom birds overhead. And that's where the real ending is, not the legal paperwork, but the little moments after. Walking side by side to the car, Jake holding her hand not to restrain her, just to keep her safe. Lily running back to tell Emily, "Thank you for helping Daddy learn to love me the right way." Jake adding softly, "And thank you for teaching me that real strength isn't about fear." Their new home has no basement at all. Light pours in through wide windows. Lily laughs freely. Jake still stumbles sometimes, but now he knows stumbling isn't failure. It's part of learning. And in Miller's diner, Maggie still tells the story of the morning a little girl walked in alone, asked a cop to arrest her daddy, and started a chain of events that saved them both. So here's the thing. When you hear a child ask for help, even if it's in a way that catches you off guard, stop and listen. Sometimes that's the bravest thing they'll ever do. Sometimes it's the start of everything changing. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think Jake deserved a second chance? Or are some cycles too dangerous to risk repeating? It's funny how people think the story ends when the court says case closed. But that's not how real life works. Not for Jake, not for Lily, and definitely not for Emily. The day they walked out of that courthouse together, everything looked neat and tied up. Papers signed, recommendations in place, therapy sessions scheduled. But inside, every single one of them knew this was just another beginning. You know what I mean? Those moments when the real work is ahead of you, not behind. For Jake, the first weeks back with Lily felt like living in a brand new house, but still hearing echoes from the old one. He'd catch himself wanting to correct her tone, or tell her she needed to sit straighter, and then stop, because now he knew the cost of that kind of control. Sometimes he'd walk away and sit on the back porch, just to breathe, just to remind himself that love didn't mean shaping her every move. It meant giving her room to become whoever she was meant to be. He'd write little notes and stick them on the fridge, ask, "Don't order," or "Listen first, talk second," as if parenting was a language he was relearning word by word. Lily was relearning, too. The first time she spilled orange juice at breakfast, she froze, hands clenched, eyes darting toward him like she was waiting for the floor to open beneath her. Jake just grabbed a towel and said, "Well, now the floor gets breakfast too." And the look on her face, it was like watching someone realize the rules of gravity had changed. She laughed, a real, startled laugh, and he laughed with her. It was the first mess they'd cleaned up together without fear hanging in the air. Emily kept visiting, not because she had to, but because she wanted to see the cracks filling in. She'd drop by after school. Yes, Lily was finally in school now, and find her sprawled on the living room floor with crayons, hair a little wild. Homework half done because she'd gotten distracted drawing freedom birds again. And Jake would be in the kitchen, not hovering, just letting her be, making spaghetti with too much garlic because Lily said that's the way she liked it. There were setbacks, there always are. One night, after a rough day, Jake caught himself raising his voice. It wasn't loud, but it had that old edge in it, the one that made Lily shrink. He saw it immediately, and instead of sending her to her room, he sat down right there on the floor and said, "I'm sorry. That was the old me talking. You didn't deserve that." And Lily, who used to think apologies were things children gave to adults, whispered back, "It's okay. I still love you when you make mistakes." That night he lay awake thinking about how much strength it took for a 6-year-old to say that, and how he never wanted her to lose that strength again. By the start of spring, the little house with the big windows felt different. There were shoes by the door that weren't lined up perfectly, drawings taped to the fridge at odd angles, laughter spilling out into the yard. On Saturdays, they'd go to the park and Lily would race ahead, hair flying, stopping only to yell, "Come on, Daddy, you're slow." And he'd smile, because she wasn't walking 2 steps behind him anymore, and she wasn't asking permission to run. The neighborhood noticed, too. Mrs. Patterson, who'd once stood frozen on the sidewalk watching Lily being taken away, stopped by with cookies one afternoon. "She's different," she told Jake quietly. "Happier. Louder. I'm glad." Jake didn't know what to say, so he just nodded, because some things you don't wrap in words, you just live them. One evening, Emily got a text from Jake. "Check your mailbox." Inside was a photo, Lily in a red dress, barefoot in the grass, holding a kite string while Jake stood behind her, letting her steer even when the kite wobbled dangerously close to the ground. On the back, in Lily's handwriting, were 6 words. "We're still learning, but it's fun." That's the thing about breaking cycles. There's no finish line. Just 1,000 little moments where you choose differently. Jake chooses it every time he listens instead of lectures. Lily chooses it every time she speaks up instead of staying silent. And Emily, watching from the sidelines, knows this is the kind of ending that doesn't fade when the credits roll. So maybe the real story isn't just that a scared little girl asked for help and got it. Maybe it's that she kept asking, without words, through the way she lives now, for a life where love doesn't hide in the same room as fear. And maybe the bravest thing Jake ever did wasn't letting her go that day, but letting go of the man he used to be. What about you? If you were Jake, would you have had the courage to admit you were wrong in front of your child? Or would pride have kept you locked in the same old, quiet place you built for yourself years ago?